Jerome Lexell, I'm going to be the bad guy today because I've got the standard issue parliamentary cardboard coffee cup, and you've got something quite different.
Yeah.
You've come equipped with a few ideas, in fact, for this building. Why is it that I can buy one of these at will? And what are you saying should happen?
Well, I'm a first-term MP, and one of the things that I really noticed here was the amount of single-use, firstly, the amount of coffee that was consumed. You know, politics and politicians run off coffee. But the second thing was how much of that coffee was single-use. So I did a bit of research recently and found that up until June this year, 252,000 single-use coffee cups were sold.
Wow.
You know, I've been on this journey for quite some time now, through the community in my electorate. Before I came to federal parliament, I was in local government. And we know that plastic waste is a huge problem for our environment and a huge problem for local government. I'm calling on the federal parliament to bring in either a closed loop system of cups where we get reusable cups, or to encourage people to do it, because it's a lot. It's a lot.
I actually looked up the Department of Parliamentary Services' most recent annual report, which was 2020-21, and it had paper and cardboard. Perhaps I looked up the wrong column, but paper and cardboard at 141 tonnes. And that was, I guess, through the pandemic. Kitchen grease, by the way, 105 tonnes. But anyway, as a place to be able to regulate the sale of these things and lay down new rules and regulations, does it strike you that this should be a fairly simple one to achieve?
Well, the coffee cup is just symbolic of a broader problem, right? So I launched Plastic Free July last night, which is a global movement which encourages people to go plastic free in July. It's kind of like Dry July and, you know, Movember, Plastic Free July. It is incumbent on a federal government in particular to introduce new packaging regulation so that I guess virgin plastic becomes more expensive or less cost effective as recycled plastic. Only about 13% of plastic is recycled in Australia, so we can't recycle our way out of this problem. We need to change the way that people consume things, and coffee cups is just a very, very low-hanging fruit. 500,000 single-use coffee cups here in this building itself.
And I will ask about your broader experience in the community and at local government level, but it strikes me that this isn't a hotbed of rampant retail competition in Parliament House. There's a fully contracted caterer for the whole building, and then a private enterprise, only one of them, private enterprise cafe. So the processes in bringing change through those outlets, what do? You just write to the Speaker and the President?
Yeah, so I'll be writing to the Speaker. There are many examples of closed loop, reusable cup systems where there's actually no cost to the user. You just get given a cup. There are stations where you can put them behind it. It's across big commercial buildings, across capital cities. It's nothing new. And if we can show leadership here in our federal parliament, then I know from my experience in my community as a mayor and a councillor that when your elected officials show leadership, then it encourages people to do the same at home. And if someone sees a photo or a video of this, they'll then go to their coffee shop and say, hey, have you got this brand of coffee cup? Either bring your own mug or use their closed loop system to avoid that plastic waste.
Has anyone explained to you why it hasn't been adopted here previously? I'm wondering if there's a labour cost, for instance, in cleaning.
Well, comparative to the individual cost of the product itself, and then also the waste. There are fees and levies for general waste. There's a cost to that. But then ultimately also there's a cost to our environment. And unless we change our behaviours and show leadership, then we know that if we keep on producing single-use plastic, the amount of plastic waste in the ocean will be more than the weight of fish in the ocean. We ingest about 1 credit card's worth of microplastics a week right now. We need to get plastics out of the system, and a coffee cup is a symbolic way of starting that conversation and getting people to change their behaviour, just as we did with single-use plastic bags in supermarkets.
Well, exactly, and that sort of went off relatively smoothly despite all the grim foreboding. Why don't we just move on to a news issue of the day, because we've discussed it before, Jerome, on the program around housing, and you will have observed over in the other chamber, the Senate this week, the Housing Australia Future Fund has been pushed out until October. Are you certain that your own government will bring that bill back, for the Housing Australia Future Fund in October?
Well, today I'd be calling on the Greens to reverse their pretty radical decision from Monday, teaming up with One Nation, the Liberals and the Nationals to block the supply of more affordable and social housing. Is pretty blatant politics. There's 2 days to reverse that decision. It can get through the Senate this week. And we know that delaying this till October or beyond, let's face it, the Greens have been rather difficult on this matter for quite some time, despite negotiations from the government. To delay this costs $1.3 million a day from 1 July. There are shovel-ready projects that won't be built. Delaying this will make the housing crisis worse, and the Greens need to reverse their position of 2 days ago where they teamed up with One Nation and the Liberals.
I understand that demand, but it does appear there are other options available for the government, and the Prime Minister himself announced one over the weekend, which is a different funding model. You just hand grants out to the states. I wonder if there's a rethink of this in the government, and you might be prepared to go down that path rather than the investment fund model.
Well, the government's already made that announcement on Sunday, as you said. If the Greens continue to stand in the way of this, we're not going to stop delivering more housing and rental reform. We were elected on that platform. The policy we took to the last election was this Housing Australia Future Fund. If the Greens want to block that and continue to block that, we'll just get on with the job. We're in the middle of a housing crisis. There's not enough supply. And for the first time in 10 years, Greg, we have a federal government that actually cares about the delivery of housing. We're not going to waste that opportunity, whether the Greens and the Liberals stand in the way of that.
All right. Well, look, in the meantime, Jerome Lexar, you've convinced me.
Excellent.
And it's
well done.
in with the new and out with the old.
Excellent.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, mate.